Now, time to talk sports matters on CEMTV. Stay with us.
Sensational! Absolutely sensational! Sensational! And Stadium is rocked! The All Blacks press forward with a driving run. White 5 for 3, it's good! A huge shot! The puck drops in this gold medal game.
So, Rory McIlroy believes Genesis Scottish Open is the perfect preparation for the Queens. Of course, the Open event and should be used as a blueprint in incorporating national Opens into the new PGA Tour schedule. And Britain's Arthur Ferry stand Flavio Cobolli in straight sets to continue his remarkable wildcard run and reach the semi-finals of Wimbledon. He's got Alexander Zverev to worry about in the semis. And just so you know, Newcastle United are in the news because Captain Bruno Guimaraes has told the club he wants to join the Gunners, talking about Arsenal. And Ederson's move from Atalanta to Manchester United, this summer could yet fall through. And the Red Devils have agreed a £50 million deal to sign Chelsea midfielder Andre Santos as the 2026 FIFA World Cup enters its quarter-final stage. Guess what? The Opta supercomputer is in the news because it's given, its prediction that for the teams that will qualify to the semi-finals of the Mundial, France will play Morocco, Spain face Belgium, Norway take on England, and Argentina will clash with Switzerland. Interesting times. Are you a fan of the supercomputer? Well, with that I say welcome to Sports 360 right here on Sem Television. I'm that Mino, the voice you trust, and that Mino you probably need. They call me Rex Patrick the Locker, that homeboy that's never at home. I look around 247-365. I'm your host and guide. Okay, now let's start off the morning talking about let's start off with Paralympics, where Dame Sarah Story has announced her retirement from competitive sport. Yeah, ending a career which saw her become Britain's greatest or most successful Paralympian. Story, who's 48 years of age, won a British record 19 Paralympic gold medals across swimming and cycling, but has opted to step away from the competition 2 years after she got involved in an event which was at 10 Paralympic Games that was in Los Angeles. Of course, we're looking forward to what she's got in store. Interesting times. Story made the Paralympic debut, that was back as a swimmer at the Barcelona Games in 1992. So taking time off to school to compete at the age of just 14. Yeah, so she won 2 gold medals right there and 3 more in Atlanta, Georgia 4 years later. So she won 4 silver medals and a bronze across the Sydney and Athens Games before switching to cycling ahead of Beijing 2008 Olympic Games. She went on to win another 14 Paralympic gold medals, 9 in road cycling and another 5 in the velodrome. 4 of the titles came in front of home crowds in London. Yeah, London 2012, and she retires as a reigning Paralympic champion after a double success in Paris. That's some 2 years ago. Her announcement comes ahead of this summer's Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, where the para sports schedule has been integrated into the competition schedule. She's now taking a bow after a remarkable run, a successful career, and she happens to be Britain's most successful Paralympian. Now from there we move on to golf, and just so you know, Rory McIlroy believes the Genesis Scottish Open is a perfect preparation for the Open and should be used as a blueprint in incorporating national Opens into the new PGA Tour schedule. Of McIlroy returns to action for the first time since the US Open and appears at the event for the fifth time in 6 seasons, with 15 of the world's 20 in action at the Renaissance Club ahead of the Open next week at Royal Birkdale. Of course, the PGA Tour will implement a two-tier schedule from 2028, seeing promotion and relegation in place between a Championship Series and Challenger Series. With this week's event currently, the only tournament in Europe, co-sanctioned between them and DP World Tour. McIlroy has previously spoken out in support of national opens and their importance, within the global game, with the six-time major champion keen to see the Scottish Open have a key place in the season, but without significant changes to how the field is assembled. McIlroy has based himself primarily in the UK since mid-May, taking a scouting mission, of course, to Royal Birkdale last month and a golfing trip to Cornwall ahead of back-to-back links, back-to-back links golf events. So he's looking forward to that very one at the Genesis, event. So interesting times for that man, McIlroy. The Scottish man is, seemingly one of the favorites going into the event, and is hoping to use this one as, a way to prepare, use this to prepare for the Open coming up next week in Birkdale. So now let's leave golf and talk tennis, where Britain's Arthur Ferry stunned Flavio Cobolli in straight sets to continue his remarkable wildcard run and reach the semi-finals of Wimbledon. Of course, Ferry fed off a buoyant centre court crowd and produced another outstanding performance in sweltering conditions to win 6-4, 7-6, 6-love. Of course, it was quite a tight affair, an interesting one for the most part anyways. To become only the fifth British player to make the last four of the men's singles in the Open era after Andy Murray, Tim Henman, Cameron Norrie and Roger Taylor. The 23-year-old will next face Germany's Alexander Zverev, who beats USA's Taylor Fritz 6-4, 6-4, 6-2, with Yannick Sinner against Novak Djokovic in the other semi-final, of course, on Friday. So it's an interesting one, a huge task for that man, talking about, the young star. He's done well for himself, talking about Ferry. So Arthur would need to go into that match against Alexander Zverev on the right foot, because Zverev, he's a well-experienced player and well-placed in terms of rankings compared to Arthur Ferry. Of course, we wait to see what the young Brit has got in store going into the semi-finals of Wimbledon 2026. It feels like it's a home court, yeah? But then, let's tell you that earlier on Wednesday, Czech Republic's Linda Noskova made her first Grand Slam semi-final with a 6-3, 7-5 victory over Belgium's Elise Mertens. Of course, Noskova will face Ukraine's Marta Kostyuk after she comfortably beat Italy's Jasmine Paolini 6-3, 6-2. Of course, both the men's semi-finals will take place today, Thursday, with Coco Gauff taking on Karolina Muchova in another encounter. So that's it in tennis. Now let's move on to boxing, where we got this really interesting story making the rounds. The blockbuster heavyweight showdown between Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua would need to take place at exactly 2 a.m. if it's to be held at Wembley Stadium in London. Of course, it's been the talk of the world for the most part, in sports. Turki Al-Sheikh, who is organizing the all-British bout, said on Monday that he wants the fight to take place at a time that works for a global audience, and it intends to hold talks with the Mayor of London, Sir Sadiq Khan, in a bid to obtain permission to host a late-night fight in the capital city. Khan responded to Al-Sheikh's comments by saying he supported ambitions to hold the fight in London. Of course, before Al-Sheikh posted on social media that he had so far been told a later time was not possible for that very bout. Meanwhile, Brent Council, the local authority that would be involved in granting approval, has said an extension to Wembley's current 11 p.m. curfew would need to be assessed by the Stadium Safety Advisory Group, which the council is part of. Following that exchange of statement, CEMTV Sports learned on Wednesday that ring work for the main event would need to start at exactly 2 a.m. if it's to be staged at the iconic venue, Wembley Stadium. It would appear likely that, for what it's worth, design will now be officially communicated to Khan, the Mayor of London, along with the other authorities that would have to, green light an agreement. So for that one to take place, Al Sheikh wants the bouts to be accessible to a US television audience, and a 2 a.m. UK time would translate to about 9 p.m. That's in the Eastern Standard Time and 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time in the States. No date has yet been set for the fight, but it is expected to take place in November 2026. Both former world champions are competing in warm-up fights later this month of July, with a surprise defeat to all injury for either fighter appearing to be the only potential obstacle to their meeting going ahead as planned in November. Fury faces Marius Ward in Thailand on July the 24th, while Anthony Joshua is taking on Christian Prenga a day later in Saudi Arabia. So these two heavyweight fighters are in for this one. Nothing would stop it apart from injuries, and of course both camps are trying everything to ensure that it takes place. It sure would be a blockbuster event, a mouth-watering boxing bout. But then wait to see what happens at the end of it all. From there now, let's move on to football. Let's talk football, where we start off with some transfer stories, and of course we get to look at what the papers are saying at this material time. And just so you know, Manchester United are in a quandary over Marcus Rashford's future at the side. Arsenal and Tottenham Hotspur are eyeing Antonio Nusa, Barca shortlist Bournemouth's Eli Junior Krupi. Because Marcus Rashford and Manchester United are trying to ensure that they get a really good deal that would have the former FC Barcelona loanee leave the side on a permanent basis. United will aim to arrange a transfer for the England forward, who is 28 years of age, before their pre-season camp in Dublin in August. But plans are also in place though to reintegrate Marcus Rashford into Manchester United squad under new manager Michael Carrick. Of course, Arsenal and Tottenham are among 5 Premier League sides eyeing a move for RB Leipzig and Norway winger Antonio Nusa. Nusa is 21 years of age. Barca have shortlisted Bournemouth's French striker Eli Junior Krupi, who is actually 20 but could face competition from Paris Saint-Germain, Arsenal, and of course Tottenham Hotspur. In another development, Bianco Neri, talking about Juventus, are in the news. They want Aston Villa to lower the demand for a 10 million euros fee for Argentina goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez, who's 33 years of age, having already agreed personal terms. Barca, interestingly, are competing with a host of Premier League clubs, including West Londoners Chelsea, the citizens of Manchester are talking about City, and Manchester United for highly rated Colorado Rapids and Australia defender, that's Lucas Harrington. He's just 18 years of age. And Manchester City, Arsenal and Liverpool are all chasing 18-year-old Lille Metropole midfielder Ayub Buadi, who is staring at the FIFA World Cup ongoing USA, Mexico and Canada for the Atlas Lions of Morocco. And of course, West Londoners Chelsea will consider Juventus and Serbia striker, talking about Dusan Vlahovic, who's 26 years of age, if they chose to reshape their striking department this very summer. And Arsenal and Italy's Arsenal in the conversation. That's because Real Madrid manager Jose Mario dos Santos Felix Mourinho is considering Arsenal and Italy's Riccardo Calafiori, who's 24 years of age. His Gunners teammate, that's Kylian Piero Hincapi, who's 24 years of age, and Manchester City and Portugal's Ruben Dias, who's 29, as he looks to add physicality to his side's defense this very summer. Meanwhile, Liverpool and Brazil midfielder Fabinho, who is 32 years of age, says he's interested in reuniting with Jose Mario dos Santos Felix Mourinho, at Real Madrid after leaving Al Ittihad, according to TalkSport. Okay, now let's tell you that the Whites, Leeds United, have completed a deal to sign Harry Wilson on a free transfer following his departure from the Cottagers, talking about Fulham. Of course, it was reported last month Wilson will stay, and he was being offered he was being offered a new contract after a career best season in the Premier League, where he scored about 10 goals and set up 7 more. 10 goals, 7 assists to his team, which attracted interest from clubs in the UEFA Champions League. His signing represents a real coup for Leeds. Of course, it's a good time. It comes nearly a year on from Wilson's deadline day move to Elland Road, which collapsed at the last minute of that very one. And Wilson has got 69 Wales Cup, and that's a whole lot. He's now been linked. He's got links with international teammates Dan James, Ethan Ampadu, and Joe Rodden at Elland Road. So he's looking forward to life at the side. The 29-year-old becomes Leeds' first signing of the summer transfer window. They are also in ongoing pursuit of Southampton midfielder Shea Adams and Julian Brandt, the midfielder who left Borussia Dortmund this very summer and has been linked to the move to several sides. So for Wilson, he is expected to bring in his wealth of experience to Leeds United right there at Elland Road. Of course, he'll be a really good addition to that very side as they look forward to achieving greatness in the 2026-2027 campaign. Now, in another development, Bruno Guimaraes is in the news. The Newcastle United captain, talking about Bruno Guimaraes, has told the club he wants to join North Londoners, talking about Arsenal. It's been confirmed to us, Newcastle are not making any comments on the situation, and we understand Arsenal have made no contact with them over the availability of the midfielder. Of course, however, it is understood, we quite understand that the conditions of a deal for the 28-year-old have been explored via intermediaries. However, of course, Guimaraes has got 2 years left on his Newcastle United contract, with a year's option to extend to the summer of 2029. Newcastle have no interest in selling the Brazil international. Their stance has been consistent all summer. They insist their captain is not for sale, and they are not welcoming any bids. Guimaraes, who joined Newcastle from Olympique Lyonnais for £35 million back in January 2022, has become one of the key players in the club's return to prominence after their Saudi-backed owners completed a takeover in October 2021. However, Newcastle have no desire to sell the captain. Of course, interestingly, Alexander Isak left, who was one of the star players at the side the previous season. That's 2 seasons ago. And Anthony Gordon has now joined FC Barcelona. And fellow midfielder Sandro Tonali, he's left for Tottenham Hotspur. Guimaraes, who missed the penalty as Brazil went out of the World Cup against Norway in the last 16, has established himself as a huge crowd favourite and was the man who lifted the club's first domestic trophy in 70 years when he led them to Carabao Cup glory 2 seasons ago. Elsewhere, Ederson's move from Atalanta to Manchester United this very summer could yet fall through, according to what we've gathered. This is because, Manchester United were not convinced enough. They were not convinced with the results of Ederson's medicals after they agreed a 45 million euros deal. Because the Brazilian midfielder is now set to undergo further checks before the deal is finalized. United have already agreed a 50 million pounds deal with Chelsea for Andre Santos. Yeah, 50 million pounds deal for Andre Santos to join the side from Chelsea. Interesting times. Of course, the agreement is broken up into a guaranteed 48 million pounds payment plus 2 million pounds in add-ons. Chelsea will also retain a 10% sell-on clause. Santos is now preparing to undergo a medical with Manchester United. The Brazil international faced a battle for regular game time. They just concluded a campaign given Chelsea will not participate in European competition. His long-term pursuit of becoming a first-team starter at the club was further hindered by Moises Caicedo extending his contract until 2033 earlier this year. Santos joined Chelsea from Vasco da Gama and has since played on loan at Nottingham Forest and at Chelsea's sister club, that's Strasbourg. Santos featured in 43 matches for Chelsea in all competitions last campaign, scoring 3 goals and contributing 4 assists in that time. So he wants to move to Manchester United. A deal has been agreed worth 50 million quid. Is he ready for a swift test? Clearly, he's expected to hit the ground running. And under Michael Carrick, of course, there are lots. They believe that he'll bring a lot to the table right there at the side. So, for the want of time, now let's turn our focus to the ongoing FIFA World Cup in USA, Mexico, and of course Canada, where of course the tournament hits the quarterfinal stage with a game to be seen today. France against Morocco, 9 p.m. Nigerian time, same time in the UK. Now, let's tell you that before we look at the games, I'll talk about what to expect. Lamine Yamal, Spain winger, is in the news. Of course, he's insisted that Portugal captain Cristiano Ronaldo dos Santos Aveiro and Brazil forward Neymar Jr. are key figures for his generation. Yamal said this while wishing both Ronaldo and Neymar the best in their careers after the duo, got eliminated from the World Cup. The Barca star spoke to reporters ahead of Spain's World Cup quarter-final clash with Belgium. Of course, they get to see that on Friday. In his words, he said, and I quote, "Cristiano Ronaldo and Neymar have been key figures for my generation since we were kids. I wish them all the best." Of course, the words of Lamine Yamal, the Barca winger right there. Ronaldo and Neymar failed to lead Portugal and Brazil to qualify for the World Cup quarter-final stage after losing to Spain and Norway, respectively, in the round of 16. So they've now taken the bow, and it happens to be their last appearance at the FIFA World Cup. Interesting times for the Spanish winger Lamine Yamal. He's looking to really make it count when they face the Red Devils of Belgium in the last 8 of the tournament on Friday. Now, let's move on to some other one. And if you're a believer or a lover of the supercomputer, as the 2026 FIFA World Cup enters its quarterfinal stage, the Opta supercomputer has given its prediction for teams that will qualify for the last 4. France, just so you know, will play Morocco. Spain face the Red Devils of Belgium. Norway will take on the Three Lions of England, and RB Celeste of Argentina will clash with Switzerland. Opta supercomputer has given France the highest chance of winning the trophy at 27.32%, agreeing with most pundits and observers that Didier Deschamps' men are strong favorites. Spain who are also in the conversation, who are the current European champions, have been given 21.33% probability of becoming world champions. Argentina and England have been given 17.28% chance and 16.48% respectively. This means Norway, Switzerland, Morocco and Belgium are all expected to be eliminated in the quarterfinal stage of the competition. Isn't that interesting? But then, the game is not played on paper. It's one thing to predict, it's one thing to say your prayers, it's just another to do your homework. Looking at the standings, it's looking all interesting. France against Morocco, first off, 9 p.m. Nigerian time, same time in the UK, today, Thursday. And of course, for Spain against Belgium, we'll get to see that on Friday. But, it's been quite a ride for the most part. Looking at the FIFA World Cup 2026, with interesting insights, interesting situations, some controversial ones as well, but then we wait to see what the French side have got in store. What's it like going into that encounter against Morocco? 9 p.m. Nigerian time, same time in the UK. What's it like? Can the North African giants, Morocco, pull an upset against France? Can they have France knocked out of the FIFA World Cup? Recall France were the side that, the team that stopped Morocco, that's the last edition of the World Cup in the semi-finals, yeah? So this is the Atlas Lions of Morocco are looking to have a revenge. Yeah. Oh, come on. It's an interesting one. Yeah, a repeat of what happened the last time out. The last edition in Qatar. So what's it like going into this one? What are the chances like? Will they make it count? Have they got enough in the tank to deliver? Will they fall short when it gets to the crunch? Will they crumble like a pack of cards? Will they make it count tonight? Or will it be W in the chart for Didier Deschamps' side? Of course, for Didier Deschamps, he's well experienced. He won the World Cup with the French national team back in 2018 in Russia. 2022 in Qatar, he led them to the final of the tournament. They lost narrowly to RB Celeste of Argentina, and so he's looking to make it count this time around by going on to lift the trophy. And Opta supercomputer, has given them a really great percentage when you put them side by side with other teams involved. Opta supercomputer sees them as the real favorites, number one favorites to win the tournament with 27.32% probability chance of winning it. What's it like? Do you agree with Opta supercomputer, or would it be Spain? For La Roja of Spain, they've shown some really good performances. They've been absolutely top so far at the tournament, and are also one of the favorites and a second on the log when it comes to rankings or ratings by from the Opta supercomputer. 21.33% chance. But hey, again, it's not played on paper. The game is not played on paper. It's about who wants it more. It's about creating many big situations as possible, and of course taking your chances or converting your chances. Interestingly, we can't go any further. This is where we get to put a pin right here on Sports 360 on SEM Television. Been a great time with you. I tell you for free, you are the real MVP. But not to worry, I'll be back here later on to look at the games, proper, that encounter between France and Morocco. We'll talk more about that. Look at several insights, the possibility of either side coming up tops at the end of it all. I remain Danny, the voice you trust and that mayor you probably need. They call me Rex Patrick the Locker, that homeboy that's never at home. I look around 247-365. For now, it's a wrap.
And now, time to talk sports matters on CEMTV. Stay